What's up everyone, it's Endymion, and there is something brewing right now that's forcing a lot of players in different corners of the entertainment space to come forward. For years now, there's been a culture war raging amidst the paying customer and the corporations that create content. Obviously, my channel champions the concept of free speech. I believe everyone should have their voices heard, even if you don't agree with it. The importance of free speech is that beyond any other human right we have, it is the single most effective weapon you can use against the cacophony of false news that circulates every day. That's also why it's so feared, because being able to say the truth is akin to exposing the emperor for wearing no clothes. And now there's a new controversy brewing, all because of the Marvels. I don't need to bang on that drum much. The movie is bad, it bombed at the box office, and now multiple websites are running damage control. And now those who don't like what people like myself, YellowFlash, Disparu, and more do are trying to advocate for us to be silenced. Also, later on I'll talk a little bit about the Game Awards and how this concept of free speech is affecting even what games get nominated when it comes to award seasons, like Hogwarts Legacy. Anyway, to begin, let's look at this article from Bounding Into Comics titled, Nerdrotic, YellowFlash, Critical Drinker, and Jesse Grant targeted by censorship police. For opinions about the Marvels, YouTube appears to encourage reporting. This all began when a Twitter user decided to vocally express their discontent for how YouTube was pushing content about the Marvels onto their feed, with videos from people like Nerdrotic and YellowFlash being some of the top results. By the way, don't harass this Twitter user, or I guess you can't really anyway, since they protected their tweets already and went into hiding. Regardless, don't dogpile, but instead let's decipher what exactly is going on in a civilized manner here. This user said, when I search about the Marvels on YouTube, why are these two in the top 10 results? At YouTube, algorithm is pushing these hateful videos. To which Team YouTube replied, you can remove recommended vids on your homepage by selecting not interested in content you don't like. This will influence how YouTube suggests videos to you in the future. Which is true. If you don't like something, just click it and say not interested. We've all done it before, it's not revolutionary. But then, it got a little suspect since Team YouTube then said, also, we definitely want our community to help flag inappropriate content to ensure YouTube is a safe place for everyone. If you come across something that violates YouTube's policies, you can report it by following these steps. Then another user came into the fray saying YouTube should remove Nerdrotic's Blue Beetle videos because he uses the word taco in the title. And the movie is about Latinos, so this is somehow racist now. Which, let's just hit the brakes for a second real quick on that one. I saw that video this user talked about. There's nothing racist about putting a food that is ethnic to a group in a title. It's a joke, and again, taco is not a racist term. That would be like, since I'm Serbian, someone made a video about me and put the word cevape in it, which is a food Serbian people eat. That is not racist at all. It's just the name of a type of food. God damn, these people are so sensitive these days. It's annoying. Honestly, it makes me wonder how some of these people who are chronically online even manage in real life when things like this make them cry this hard. Anyway, let's keep going. This is where it starts to get more suspect, where a user says, gladly, it's offensive for so many reasons. I can't believe it's still up. I just hate to give these people exposure and more clicks, and they even put the little crying emoji. These people are pathetic, man. Team YouTube then assures the user they'll review the video through their usual routines to ensure the video is not pushing anything racist. Thankfully, a real one comes through named Marlon Maciel who says, hey Team YouTube, how about accountability for people that falsely flag videos? Do you accept those people roaming free in your platform, or do you guys do what's right and ban them as well? And Team YouTube just kinda gives a whatever answer. Let's stop here for a second again. What Marlon says here is true. The use of false flagging is ridiculous and can be abused far too easily. This can lead to trolls who don't like a certain channel just flooding them with nonsense, and it's something YouTube fails to regulate. I once had a video about Diablo 4, which I won't even use footage of it in this video. And the reason why was because a channel with 100 subscribers falsely flagged a video of mine because I used a cutscene from that game. And the footage in question was taken from my copy of the PS5 version of the game that I recorded myself for my own personal play session. And YouTube failed to drop the copyright claim when a channel that small clearly did not have the rights to Activision Blizzard's video game footage. And this is what I mean, is that if we want to talk about censorship, let's talk about it. It's real, guys, and it's something channels like mine or Nerdrotic or Critical Drinker need to be on top of 24/7. This is mostly because channels like mine and others are saying the quiet parts out loud, and we don't sugarcoat things in corporate mandated nonsense. And I guarantee because of us, there has been a cultural shift in how people consume their content. And it's led to a much more elevated and aware customer base. Which is good, by the way. I think it's great that anyone watching my videos or others become self-aware of the shady tactics and the underlying messages of what these corporations are pushing. Because otherwise we end up in this typhoon of misinformation that will just keep churning out garbage like the Marvels, or talking down to people in games like Spider-Man 2. What's happening here in this specific thread is you witnessing how easy it is for random users to falsely flag and try to tear down a YouTuber, which in this case is Nerdrotic. I'm a big fan of his and I've watched his stuff well before I even attempted to do this full time. So to say his content hasn't in some way shaped what I do would just be outright lying. Nerdrotic does really good work and his videos are great. And what we need is more of his stuff, because the more things get called out and held accountable, the better entertainment will become in the future. But what we're seeing here is people advocating to censor and maybe one day deplatform people like Nerdrotic. And it's not because of the quality of his videos, but simply because he is exerting his right to free speech, and people don't like that. I don't personally know Nerdrotic myself, but I would back him up anyway, because what he's facing here is similar to what I go through almost every day on this platform, as well as places like Twitter. Every day I'm harassed on Twitter and called names. Hell, if you type my name into Reddit, you'll get entire threads that just hate me without actually knowing me. Again, I'm not going to advocate that those Reddit threads or people on Twitter be silenced, because as annoying and fake as what they're saying is, it's still their right to use free speech. And all I can do is use my right to that same free speech to combat any narratives that look to tear me down without giving me a chance. What these people want is for us to be deplatformed, and they probably would love to hear if harm were to come to any of us as well. Because people like me and others don't subscribe to the mind virus, and that angers these people. Even earlier this month, we had confirmation of this very thing happening from Bounding Into Comics. HBO and Max executives create army of troll accounts to target critics of their movies and television shows, weaponizing identity politics. This report comes from Rolling Stone, where two executives at HBO, whose names are Casey Bloys, who's this guy in glasses pictured here, and Kathleen McCaffrey, admit to using their resources at HBO to create armies of bot accounts in order to silence their critics. They would use these bots to troll and push pro-HBO messaging onto any post that badmouthed or critiqued their network's content. These executives got ousted by a former staff member named Sully Tamori, who accused HBO of harassing and damaging their future within the company after they came forward to tell their employer of a mental health diagnosis they recently filed for review. Tamori ousted Kathleen McCaffrey for looking into ways to create fake accounts that couldn't be traced via messages that they exchanged. Apparently, according to Tamori, these two executives wanted to create a system so that they could falsely flag content that went against their narratives and would silence anyone who didn't agree with them. Tamori's lawyers also said that HBO fosters a hostile atmosphere, and that these executives would bully and attack anyone who didn't do their bidding. And it eventually led to Tamori developing some form of mental instability, and now the lawsuit is here exposing all of this. Tamori even publicly admitted and shared an account that they were forced to make by those HBO executives in order to attack users on Twitter. The Kelly Shepard user here is actually Tamori, who uses this anonymity to push identity politics and push gender issues in order to defame someone who publicly spoke out against content on HBO. And of course, you also have PR firms like Bunker 15, which openly admitted that they have thousands of writers within their reach. And they will oftentimes pay these writers checks in order to pander and give movies higher scores in order to hopefully garner self-interest. Then we have friend of the channel, Price of Reason, who said a while back that even Kathleen Kennedy uses these same tactics to push narratives. And Reason says that Gizmodo writer Jermaine Lucier was pushing Kennedy's narrative when Gina Carano got fired, to which they said, and I quote, "When Gina Carano was fired, I believe Kathleen Kennedy needed to make sure she could distance herself from the firing while also making both harsh and false accusations about Carano that way, and Carano would be humiliated and cancelled by the public, the media, and the entire entertainment industry without it being directly tied to Kennedy herself. Enter Jermaine Lussier, who I believe is in Godfather terms, Lucasfilm's very own Luca Brasi. Furthermore, I believe that Lussier understood exactly what his position was and that he was more than happy to push Lucasfilm's narrative, especially if it would mean they would continue to give him special VIP access to premieres, Star Wars casts, and crew interviews and scoops, end quote. So, as you can see, there's plenty of evidence already out in the open to suggest that these executives are deliberately working behind the scenes in order to silence voices that cost them money. I genuinely believe that people like Kathleen Kennedy and others are eventually going to strong-arm places like YouTube into censoring channels like mine and others on purpose. And it's not because what we say isn't true, but because they don't want the truth to spread. Because maybe if channels like Nerdrotic, YellowFlash, and Critical Drinker didn't say their pieces on the Marvels or host daily or weekly live streams in order to speak about these things publicly, then maybe things like the MCU would be going just fine for them, because none of the problems or controversies that are bellowing beneath the surface would ever come to light. And then consumers would just blissfully waltz into a theater to consume the next gray slop from these studios without being none the wiser. And that's what these companies want. They don't want Nerdrotic or people like me to exist anymore because we cost them money. But sort of like how South Park's Pandaverse said, in a lot of ways, the existence of channels like mine and others only exists because of their hubris and misinformation. To be real with you, this channel, this place called EndymionTv, exists as a response to the maelstrom of nonsense that keeps erupting out of Hollywood and the games industry almost every single day. Prior to the pandemic, I was like you. I watched and I just kept my voice silent, because I was skeptical that anyone would want to listen to what I have to say. But once I saw stuff like The Last Jedi in theaters opening day and I played games that were clearly talking down to me like The Last of Us Part 2, it eventually drove me to the point where I had to do something about it. And honestly, even when I started making content, I tried to censor myself on purpose, because I was afraid what I actually thought about things would get me shadow banned or removed before I even really started. But then I made a video, which to this day is my most watched one, which is how Western developers got mad about Elden Ring. And that was the video where I let my real voice slip out for a second, and I actually said what was on my mind and didn't censor myself. And then I saw the response and went, well shit, maybe people do want to listen to what I actually have to say. And now look where I am, with you watching and me doing this full time. I love doing this, and it's not just because it pays the bills, mind you, but because it feels like what I'm saying is changing the landscape, if even a little bit. And these bot armies, these users strong-arming YouTube and others into censoring people like myself or Nerdrotic, is something I'll fight back against no matter what, because like I said earlier, your right to free speech is the most important thing you have as a human being in this world. No matter what school teaches you or what your bosses tell you to think, deep down, you know it in your heart that there is something wrong with the way the world is right now. And ultimately, your best and only tool will always be your free speech. And if we let institutions and power-hungry executives use their power, we'll all eventually lose the single most important power we have against these sorts of things. Look, Nerdrotic did nothing wrong, neither did YellowFlash. And I'll always push back against weirdos who advocate for censorship. For all we know, those users in that viral thread were also bot accounts made by executives. How can we even tell anymore at this point? And like I've been saying, that free speech is important, just look at the Game Awards. They recently announced all their nominees, and Hogwarts Legacy got absolutely 0 nominations. People were confused by this since the game sold over 15 million copies and it holds an excellent Metacritic score, so what gives? Some people will tell you it's because Hogwarts just wasn't good enough in a year stacked with great games. But like I said, through the power of free speech, I'll tell you exactly why it didn't get nominated. And it's because Hogwarts Legacy is based on Harry Potter and its creator J.K. Rowling has very public opinions when it comes to things like women's rights. A lot of these liberal-infested websites lost their minds when Hogwarts Legacy was coming out, which you obviously know, saying that we shouldn't play it or we're all transphobes. Even websites like Axios refused to cover the game in any way in order to pander to identity politics. And now comes the Game Awards, and Hogwarts Legacy has been completely removed from any category, as if it never existed. And let me remind you that the Game Awards chooses which games become eligible for certain awards by votes. And those votes are garnered through game studios, publishers, and you guessed it, video game websites. So of course these gaming websites like Axios, Kotaku, or IGN all very likely didn't give a single vote to Hogwarts Legacy for any category. And it's not because the game isn't good, but because of the political fallout these websites would get, which by the way, wouldn't be from fans, but from other websites. So what happened here with Legacy is simple, and it's just another example of the entire gaming industry just being an echo chamber. And it's also why every game nominated for Game of the Year suspiciously has tons of progressive woke pandering within it. Alan Wake 2 and Spider-Man 2 are on there, and both of those games are clients of Sweet Baby Inc., which is a group that explicitly helps games make their games more inclusive. And before anyone says it, yes, even Baldur's Gate 3 panders in the beginning by allowing you to choose your gender and shape, without distinctly saying male or female. But again, this just continues to prove what I said, which is that all games that got nominated adhere in some way to the pandering of modern day products. And if you call that out or align yourself in any way with someone the entire industry has collectively agreed is not allowed at the dinner table with them, in this case being J.K. Rowling, you're then excluded from getting awards. And that is simply because the game industry, which they won't admit it, is one massive echo chamber. And this year alone proves that more pandering is coming, because if they don't do that, they'll get treated like Hogwarts Legacy did. But again, I can say that because of my ability to use free speech. If I was on the payroll of any of these gaming companies and I said this sort of stuff, I would be immediately blacklisted and excommunicated for my beliefs. So in the end, what we're seeing here from people trying to cancel Nerdrotic to Hogwarts Legacy getting the cold shoulder is all varying levels of the echo chambers and what these people believe in and want to silence. Nerdrotic will likely be fine, which is good, because we need more voices like his now more than ever before. And I guarantee we're getting a sequel to Hogwarts Legacy, and it'll probably also be ignored come award season again. And it won't be because of game quality or scores. The game could get a 95 on Metacritic next time, and these pandering places will ignore them anyway. And it's whatever, because award seasons are pointless, they're mostly fabricated to begin with. And let's be real, people only watch the Game Awards for game announcements anyway. Does it really matter who wins Best RPG? Who cares anymore about this shit? I'm only there to see new game releases anyway. If they removed game trailers from the Game Awards, I guarantee you their viewership levels would be catastrophically low. But what do I know? I'm just a guy who uses his free speech to say what's on his mind. But as always, thank you for watching, dear viewers. Subscribe and like the video if you want to. Thanks to my patrons as always, and have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. And Nerdrotic did nothing wrong. Thanks for watching.